Hey, welcome back, guys. We're going to start assembling our transmission. Before we do that, I would like to just go ahead and check out below. If you want to just click the like and subscribe button, it would really help me out. I appreciate it. So if you remember from the last video, we had our shifting rods and we also had all these little pins. So we're going to start by just getting a little bit of this transmission assembly lube. You could use grease, but you wouldn't want to use a molybdenum reinforced grease. Just plain grease. This is a regular transmission assembly lube. We're going to some of that down there, and then we have our thicker pins that fit in there nicely, and those will be held in there real easy with our assembly lube. It's one of the reasons why I like to use it. There we go. And this stuff, as soon as oil hits that, it dissolves it, so it'll just turn into nothing. I want to take our 3/4 shaft. This is the one with the hole that goes directly through the center, and we have these little pins. I'm going to take that pin. It's the longer of the two that we have to work with. I'm going to put that in, but before we do that, we're going to coat that with a little bit of the assembly lube. Just a little bit, nothing crazy. Don't have to go crazy with that stuff, just enough to hold it in place so it's not moving around. Then we're going to take our 5th gear in reverse. And this is the one with the shorter pin. You can see the holes here. So we'll put a little bit of assembly lube on that. That'll help hold that in place so it doesn't fall out. And it doesn't matter, like I said, you can get that. You can actually use this on the shaft, but I usually use 3-in-1 oil. And then what we have to do, we have to get this thing going. So we're gonna get this down in here. This is our 5th gear in reverse, and then our 3rd gear. We get it down in there, and you got these 3 notches. This is what helps hold it in the gear. Get those in there. I'm not really worried about that so much. I want to just make sure this pin is lined up with these 2 pins, so they can push on one another. But I know that they have to be facing me. These notches have to be facing me whenever we do this. Okay, so we're going to put that in, and then we're going to take our one with just the detent that goes in the end. Doesn't need a pin because there's nothing to push on this side. So we're going to put that in here. I want to make sure that detent is facing this pin. That way it has a place. That pin has a place to go. And again, these 3 detents here face me, so these are both lined up. We'll show you that later with another video. Now, before we start putting this in here, I'm just going to dribble a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on these. I want these to be able to slide pretty easily if we get them down in there. Just add a little bit of 3-in-1 oil. Don't have to go crazy with it, just a few drops, and it doesn't matter if you get that in there. So now we're going to take these, set them upright, and we're going to look at our orientation of these detents. Make sure they're facing me, and just kind of gradually get these set down in. So we got it upright, but they're not all the way down in, as you can see. So what's happening is, I need to pull this up a little bit. What's happening is these pins that are underneath here, they're getting kind of bound up because we're trying to put all the shafts in, but as I do that, it's going to want to push all the pins over. So what we have to do is just do one at a time. One there, and then the next one will slide down in. We got to get that one into where it's like a neutral position. Get the second one in, and get that in a neutral position. Notice whenever these are in neutral, these 2 are the same height. And we got to get this one down in, which this has a little bit of a detent in it. And finally the 5th gear. Again, this will be, get down here where you can see what I'm doing, and that's not even close to being in there. got to keep these two in neutral, these first two, as we slide this fifth gear in. There we go. That's in neutral. And then finally, and sometimes it helps to actually pick one of these thicker pins up out of here. I'll actually pick that up out. Just kind of tilt it up in the air a little bit. That grease will hold it in place. Bring it down in. There it goes. Once I get it into just about into place, tilt it back down, fold it down in. All right, now while doing that, these rods moved, so we're going to pick these up. Again, this is the trickiest part of this, to kind of hold everything. If you have a friend to hold those, that helps. And I think we're just about there. What I'm looking at is down underneath here, those thicker pins. I'm looking to make sure those are flat. If they're not sticking up, out of the groove, then I know that all the pin in this shaft and the pin in this shaft is in a neutral position. So then all we do is just slide this down, and that's it. They're in. So now all we got to do is put our 4 bolts in, 12 millimeter bolts, 12 millimeter head on them. I think they're an M8 bolt. You don't need any Loctite or anything like that on these. You know, I've built several of these transmissions and never had any trouble with them coming apart. So once we get this down, where this plate is flat, then we know we're in good shape. Start here, and I'm going to get a longer extension. It's nice having those drawers with it. Socket kit in there. Let's get them snug down for now. Tighten down. It's an aluminum case we're putting them into, so you don't have to go crazy. You don't want to feel those threads pulling, that's for sure. All right, so what we have is, and you don't want to mess with these right now. I'm going to grab the camera here. What we have here is the 1-2 shift rod. You can see how it's facing me. 3-4 shift rod, and these two are level with one another, and that's important. And we have the 5th gear shift rod here, and then we have the reverse here. So you notice I pulled that up a little bit. You always want to have that up, not all the way out, but you want to have it up a little bit, just so that everything is lined up and kind of copacetic. The other thing we're looking for to make sure that this shaft is in the correct orientation is right down in that hole. We should be able to see through that, and I don't know if you'll get that on camera, but I can actually see daylight through there. So once we get the reverse eye lure on and I start driving the dowel pin in there, I'll get this centered up where it needs to be, and then drive the dowel pin through, and that locks this into this shaft. Oops, one more time. That locks this into this shaft. So sorry about the funky camera work there. So that is the trickiest part. And after this, it will literally fall together. There's some hard work at the end, but setting the gears in there, it's pretty easy. But we are going to weld the center section in this. Since it's going into a race car, we're going to weld it up. And we thought about maybe a LSD, like a limited slip, And I have one laying around, but I think for this one we're just going to lock it. So once I get that done, I'll show you that maybe in the next video. I'll show you how that looks whenever we're done. So anyway, there it is. Not too bad. Only took a couple minutes. So we got everything all lined up and we're ready to go. And theoretically I could move these and shift them, but I don't want to do that without the shifting forks on. So because right now, like the way it's setting right now, it's very easy if I wanted to shift this way, it'd be very easy for me to pull that out. Right, and then I would have to take these bolts out and restart from the beginning. So you're saying, well, maybe I could push this one down. I could do that. But whenever I pull it up to neutral, it's very easy to pull that all the way out. And once it goes, it wants to go. So I'm not going to mess with that. I know this is in the right location. I see these two are clocked correctly, and we're good to go. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.